I'm Matt. We're just so excited to be here with you today. We've missed seeing everybody in person, and it's been tough for everybody. We can't wait for the day when it's healthy and safe enough to gather again. Welcome to worship.
Welcome to worship. This is a time now to become more mindful. Sometimes in the rush and the frenetic activity of the day, we can forget. We can forget about God. We can forget that there is a higher power and that you are being held by a love beyond your imagination. Let's become mindful of God right now. Let's worship.
Put to death, therefore, whatever in you is earthly: fornication, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming on those who are disobedient. These are the ways you also once followed when you were living that life. But now you must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive language from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have stripped off the old self with its practices, and have clothed yourselves with the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge according to the image of its creator. In that renewal, there is no longer Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave and free. But Christ is all and in all. As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony.
I like to say that I'm 28% Buddhist. What I mean by that is that Buddhism has shaped my spiritual perspectives, and that Buddhism, I think, makes me a better Christian. But I get some odd reactions when I say that I'm 28% Buddhist. And I kind of like odd reactions. It creates the opportunity for impromptu philosophical discussions, and I love that. So sometimes when I say I'm 28% Buddhist, someone says, "How did you determine that it's exactly 28%? And I tell them that I'm kind of joking, of course. I just mean I love Buddhism. And that human consciousness, of course, is an infinity. Remember that Jesus said, the Father and He are one, and that we are all one. We are all connected to an infinite consciousness, God, and you can't have 28% of an infinity. By this point, they're sorry they asked me anything. But I love to say I'm 28% Buddhist to just discombobulate our categories a little bit. So for example, a person, a consciousness, that infinity is bigger than a religion. We tend to think of the category person and religion being the big category that people are in. It's the exact opposite. A person is an infinity. Religion is in them. A person is the major category in reality, not institutional religions. I love these sort of conversations. Sometimes when I say I'm 28% Buddhist, someone will react to me and say, "Does that mean you're only 72% Christian?" And I say, well, 72%, that's about a C minus. I suppose I am a C minus Christian. I think anyone that would say they're an A plus Christian, that seems worrisome to me. I always imagine I'm striving to be a better Christian. C minus, that's probably about right. I am now in a sermon series called Encounter, Being Christian in a Multi-Faith World. And I'm trying to revel in the existence of other religions. Variety is the spice of life. Why do we turn the existence of other religions into a problem? We should celebrate that there are so many different perspectives. God's world is so beautifully variegated. But we turn pluralism into a problem. I would like to say, though, there's a problem before that problem. Now, follow me. We say the existence of other religions, if you believe Christ is the only way, is a problem. But there's a problem before that problem. Christians don't accept other Christians of different types. You know that, right? There are many Christians that will say to another type of Christian, "You're not a real Christian." Christians can't even accept other types of Christians. So first we have to probably overcome that problem. Why are we so hard on each other? Why are we so righteous, thinking our form of Christianity is the one true Christianity? You know that's the way it is. Many of the most righteous Christians that say that their version is the only true one, well, another version says to them, take the Roman Catholic Church. I love the Roman Catholic Church. Half my family's Roman Catholic. I studied with the Jesuits and Dominicans and Franciscans. I did much of my work at Boston College. I love the Roman Catholic Church, but technically speaking, it considers itself the one and only true church, even though it has an ecumenical spirit now post-Vatican II, and I love that impulse. It's still the case that its doctrine that all other forms of Christian communions are deficient, except for the one true Roman Catholic Church. And so any other Protestant Christian being righteous about their position, then the Roman Catholic Church says, no, we're the right ones, and it all becomes unhelpful. We need to open our hearts. You know, anytime I'm talking about pluralism, or when I talk about loving other religions, someone will always bring up John chapter 14 to me. And they've been doing that these past 2 weeks because there is a line in John 14 that is so resonant in the Christian imagination. People think of it right away. You know the line where Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. And they think that that sounds like Jesus is saying Christianity is the only true religion. But I don't think Jesus is talking about religion in that passage at all. First, remember what a loving moment it is. His disciple Thomas is confused. I mean, Thomas is virtually falling apart, and he says in such a plaintive, pleading way, how can I know the truth? How can I know the way? He's falling apart. And then Jesus, in this wonderful act of caretaking, says, give me your eyes. I am the way. Just follow me. Just come alongside me. I'll guide you. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. He's taking care of someone. He's not talking about what is the true religion. If you thought he was talking about religion, we know Jesus was Jewish, right? So he'd be talking about Judaism, but he's not talking about institutional religion. And this line in John 14 is deeply important to me because I think it's about love. You see, remember with me, the gospel tells us that God is love. 1 John chapter 4, God is love. Then Jesus, in the Christian heart, Jesus represents that fullest manifestation of love. Jesus is love incarnate. If Jesus is God incarnate, God is love, Jesus is love manifested, and he's saying there is no way to God except through love. He's love. No one comes to the Father but through me. You can't get to the Father but through hate or greed or fear. It's only love guides you towards God. And so I've been looking for the love you can see in other religions. Oh, you could see plenty of love. And in Buddhism, today I'm on Buddhism. And remember, I'm not trying to give you an introduction to Buddhism, sort of a Wikipedia version. I'm looking for where is the love and just taking one element and reveling in it. Buddhism is so essentially about compassion. It's inspirational. In Buddhism, they're seeking to reduce the suffering of others. They have a vivid sense of how much suffering there is in the world. But they want to help people see a way out. They believe that one of the basic causes of our suffering is the way that human beings will cling and grasp upon things. The Buddhists believe that life is transient, life is ever-changing, but human beings will try to grab hold of it and cling to it, and it just creates endless suffering. And so the Buddhists are trying to offer people a way out of suffering, to help us learn to let go. They'll talk about attachment, that if you could free yourself of attachment, if you could achieve non-attachment, you would find your joy. The Buddhists will talk about 4 major types of attachment. Let me walk through this because I know in some way you are clinging. We all do, trying to hold on to something that is transient and will move on. Let me talk about these attachments. First, Buddhists speak of being attached to the sensual realm. They don't mean sex primarily. They mean the sense realm, sense objects, possessions, things, experiences, bright and shiny things you can taste or touch or see. In the Western world, we call this materialism. When you become so attached to possessions that you can become so clinging of possessions, you become possessed by your possessions. You know that. I had a sweater in college. I had this sweater that I thought was the perfect sweater. I didn't have any money to afford expensive clothes, but this was the one really expensive, beautiful sweater, and I thought it really made me look great, and I loved this sweater so much that I was afraid to wear it. I didn't want to wear it out. I wanted to take care of it. After about a year, the moths got to it. I only got to wear it a handful of times. We can cling on to our possessions and not learn how to enjoy them. If you can be non-attached with your possessions, you would enjoy them so much more. For the Buddhists, you could live in a palace, and if you're unattached, you could really enjoy that palace. But you could live in a palace, and if you're attached to it, there'll be no joy. The same with a shack. If you could live in a shack but not be attached to it, you could find enjoyment. The attachment to the sensual realm, the way we cling and hold on to things. And then they'll talk about attachment in terms of opinion, your perspective on the world. You see, your whole life has trained you to see the world in a certain way, and you overtrust the way you see the world. You hold on to it. I know I do. But the Buddhists help us remember that there is about a 0 chance that you have a full grasp of reality, a 0 chance, and that you need to be unattached to your versions of reality, to be open. There was this old-time senator, mid-20th century, I can't remember his name, and when he was giving political speeches, he'd give a big stem winder, and then at the end, he would always say this, I love this, he would say, "Them's my views, and if you don't like them, I'll change them." Well, he was joking about how politicians will change their opinions, but we should have something of a similar perspective. Them's my views, but if I find out some new information, I might change them. You see, your version of the world, it's like a map, and you're living by that map. But it's not the actual world. Would you rather experience a map of Yosemite or walk through Yosemite itself? Don't be too attached to your maps, your opinions. And then the Buddhists talk about attachment to rites and rituals. They mean primarily that religious and spiritual folks will become attached to the outward forms of their religion. That there is an inward essence, but that will cling to the outward forms. I know as Christians we do that a lot, to our theology, our rituals, our understandings. There's an inner essence, there's a love, but we cling to the outward forms. And then lastly, the Buddhists talk about attachment to self. That your ego is your self-definition, and everything in your life has gone into defining who you think you are, but then you begin to cling on to that and you try to protect it. You'll move into endless cycles of self-defense to maintain your ego or promote your ego in the world. And so the Buddhists try to help us let go of ego. It's hard. In our culture, we're taught to promote ourselves. We're ego-driven in a Western culture, but the Buddhists remind us that will create so much suffering. If you can let go of self, you will find your joy. Have you ever seen those images of a laughing Buddha? The Buddhist sense that if you could just let go of clinging, there'll be just a natural joy. So let me end with a couple Buddhist jokes. This is one of my favorite. I think a lot of people don't like this joke so much. I love it. So a Buddhist walks up to a hot dog stand and says, "Make me one with everything." I love that because of that sense of Buddhist non-duality. They're seeking to understand that reality isn't so much subject-object, but that we're united with all things. That would get you beyond all attachments. If you could perceive the non-dual aspect of reality, there'd be nothing to attach to, all is one. The vendor hands him the hot dog, and then the Buddhist says, "Where's my change?" He'd given him a 20. And the vendor says, "Oh, change comes from within." You see, the Buddhists believe that you are not your thoughts and that you can learn through meditation. The practice of meditation is what allows one to become unattached. You can stop that clinging, that grasping. A Zen monk in the monastery went to the master and he said, "Are we allowed to use email here in the monastery?" And the master said, "Well, sure, but with no attachments." No attachments. And then lastly, just to remember the laughing Buddha, why was the Buddhist fired as a coroner? Why was the Buddhist coroner fired? Because he kept putting the cause of death as birth. The Buddhists have a sense that we're part of a greater eternity. So I'm 28% Buddhist. But now you hear what I mean. I just revel in the love that Buddhism is trying to bring into the world. And I know you have been made to bring more love into the world. May it be so. Amen.
Bunmi Ladditon is a young author who was homeless and desperate. So she started communicating with God through small prayers about anything that was on her mind. From her new book, Dear God, she writes, Dear God, caterpillars are gross. Butterflies are beautiful. I see what you did there. Love me. How insightful and wise. In another one she writes, Dear God, I can feel your compassion surrounding me in these moments when I feel your gentle eye on me. I know you're my Father, and I'm not afraid. Stay me. Let us go to God in prayer. God of transformation, grace, and compassion, forgive us when we complicate our relationship with you by pretending it only happens in worship or with fancy words and prayer. We are grateful that all you ask is for us to love you, to know you, and to spend time with you. So we come to you with hardened hearts, asking for you to help us feel. We come to you with racing minds, asking you to calm them still. We come to you with eyes seeing only our own world. Help us focus on the souls that you see. We come to you with open hands. Help us see your plans. To our neighbors, families, and strangers we meet, grant us courage to forgive, to be humble, to be patient, to be kind, and to love unconditionally, just like you do for us. In a world that is hurting, help us to be compassion in action. Just like Jesus taught us to pray, let us live it every day. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
And so I hope our worship together has helped fulfill the mission of First-Plymouth. Do you remember our mission statement? To increase the love of God and neighbor. I hope our time together has increased that love, that you can trust you are love incarnate. Go and carry it forth in the world. And now, I think Fred Rogers might have been 28% Buddhist. Now, he was a Presbyterian pastor, but there was such a basic love and compassion embedded in all his teachings and words. Listen to a loving song.
When your heart has butterflies inside it, then your heart is full of love. When your heart feels just like overflowing, then your heart is full of love. Love is fragile as your tears. Love is stronger than your fears. When your heart can sing another's gladness, then your heart is full of love. When your heart can cry another's sadness, then your heart is full of love. When your heart can sing another's gladness, then your heart is full of love. When your heart can cry another's sadness, then your heart is full